Today in Agronomy on KFIL AM 1060 with Pioneer Field Agronomist Allie and Josh Schaffner. Here's Josh and Allie.
Good morning, Southeast Minnesota. It's April 22nd, 2020, and this is episode 21. Allie, we've seen a lot of field activity here already this week, and I think one thing that we are noticing that if we do look at we talked about the snow last week a little bit and kind of what was going on there, and we're maybe seeing maybe that southeast corner that missed that snow line kind of getting off to the races here, maybe just a day or so ahead of everybody else, but everybody else isn't far behind either.
Yeah, it was nice to see in that corner of extreme southeast Minnesota, like you said, where they missed a little bit more of that heavy snow. There were planters rolling on Sunday yet, but then, the wonders of that sun and wind over the weekend, it just really dried everything off really nicely as well, and that allowed guys that were a little farther north to get moving pretty heavily on Monday into Tuesday, and we've seen a lot of action going on this week. So it's just been really exciting to get some of this corn, beans in the ground in some cases. And I think the biggest thing that sticks into my mind too, outside of planting, is just these field conditions right now, the way the ground's working up in a lot of locations, and just the general fitness of that soil right now is looking really nice. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it certainly is working up really nice. And a lot of growers have mentioned, as I've made the rounds, that as they're getting going with planting and starting, that in a lot of cases they think conditions right now are as good or better than anything they planted in the last year or two, where we've had a lot of challenges. And we're going to talk soil temperature here a little bit. We are seeing a little bit of variation of soil temperature, and we did mention that snow line, Alley, and we're kind of doing a little bit of a soil temperature project here, and where you're kind of measuring soil temp, down by Mabel, that area out of the snow line, compared to where I'm doing some up at Lewiston, we're seeing 5-6 degrees difference. However, I do anticipate that gap to narrow really rapidly, especially today, where we might get up to 70 degrees. And hopefully we can keep some warmer temps and kind of get that soil temp balanced out. But we'll discuss that a little bit more. Allie, we've been out the last couple of days. We did a couple of plots together. And but yeah, as we've made the rounds across the area, I'm not sure how many guys are fired up or what percentage. But, I think after yesterday, there might be, maybe 3, maybe as much as 4% of the corn that I think's went in the ground.
Yeah, and one thing to mention too, I had a few conversations this week where folks were saying, I read somewhere that we're about 5% behind the average planting pace this year. But I would imagine as we get to the end of this week, that number is going to look drastically different, because guys are just rolling really hard right now. And I think, that 4 or 5% planted, I think we'll see that significantly uptick. And like you mentioned, we've planted quite a few plots together, or just plots with some of our reps across Southeast Minnesota this week. And I think we've got 6 of those total on the ground, Josh, and that's a pretty significant number, a really nice start. So I'm liking the way the progress is looking.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that number might be closer to 10 after today. So we'll be back out after the show and hopefully get a bunch more plots in there as well. And one thing, Allie, we talked about this a little bit, and I think one thing that's really helping us get a jump start is a lot of our growers jumped out there in early April, where we had some nice weather, but it was too early to plant. But we were able to catch up on some of that fall tillage that we were a little bit behind on. We talked about a lot of fertilizer going down. I had a lot of questions about should we be doing that, and I kind of encouraged a lot of producers that if they had opportunities to get ahead of some fertilizer, would be urea or some anhydrous. So we have a lot of acres that are ready to go. We caught up on some tillage before planting, and I guess the only thing that's going to slow us down will be rain right now. But it seems like I think tomorrow is going to be tomorrow, I think, are going to be kind of crazy across the area.
Well, and you talked about, getting that work done, and we've talked also about the soil temps from area to area. But I think, the biggest thing, and you hit on that, depending on what some of this rain does, we've been sitting just at really insignificant levels of precipitation. And just, you mentioned the other day, just extremely low dew point levels. It's just, we got that dry air going. It's obviously very windy out there, which I'm sure everyone is experiencing as you step outside, but just really nice conditions to make sure we're keeping that ground dry. And even earlier this week, when we kind of had some spotty showers coming through, it would maybe shut guys down for a touch here and there, but then things were drying back out real quickly, and they were able to get going again right away in quite a few cases.
Yeah, and one thing we've also noticed, with these drier conditions. And we did have a winter that we didn't freeze up as hard. We didn't have maybe as much snow as that 2018-19 winter that we dealt with. But there are a lot of fields that have been, I guess you could call it chronically wet, or really haven't been really dried out for a couple of years. And a lot of those farms are actually probably as dry as they've been in a couple of years. And I know I'm encouraging guys, or I know a lot of producers are going after those farms and trying to get those in first, where, man, for the first time in a long time, they're fit. We can get through them. We're not going around wet holes. We're not going around low spots. And what a great advantage to get a jump start and all that. And hopefully this, forecast, Ellie, holds up, and we can maybe, get a jump start here in April. And I'm always a believer, Ellie, that if you can get 6 to 7 good days in April, it really makes the whole planting season, just all the logistics, and I think one thing, the average person maybe don't realize just the amount of logistics it takes to get a crop in. And if you can get 6-7 days in April, that whole process works a lot better. We come back from break, Allie, we'll kind of dive into some of those soil temps and talk about some details from there.